Hey y'all, it's Laura. Welcome back to another Cocoa Vanilla Studio video. And this time we are playing with some extremely old cut files that I pulled out from my stash when I was doing a bit of a clean out, a bit of a purge of my stash. I found these really old cut files and they came from the Silhouette shop. That I know, but I don't know who made them. I can't find them now, so I can tell you they're very old. And I had cut them onto this paper that was white on one side and a black and white polka dot on the other, so I decided to use a bit of both. Mostly the white so it would blend into the background of this pattern paper from the Great Escape collection, which this paper is called Horizon. Suits it, I think. And I decided that it would make a nice little pop on this background and give this background a layered look. So we have the beautiful kind of mountaintops in the background, these lovely clouds, and then I'm going to keep building on top of it. And so the first layer is, of course, my background. And then we've got the second layer is these lovely clouds, which I've glued down using my tonic glue gun. Gonna trim off the edges. I do like to take things over the edge just to give them kind of a continuous look. And I think that that gives it just a bit more of an active feel in the background, as though it's just an ongoing movement of those clouds. Just like when you take a photo of clouds, you can't get every cloud into the frame. Some of them are sticking out one side or the other or too far above the frame, and I kind of wanted to have that same sort of feel. The overall effect of this layout in my head was to create kind of a zoomed in like window moment, kind of like when you're looking at a photo and you zoom in on one spot, or if you've seen those really cool kind of maps where it has the map layout, and if you roll your mouse over one spot, it will kind of blow up a photo, a very like short photo, small photo of the local, from the street view, if you will. And so I kind of wanted to recreate that and have my 4x6 photo of my son at a campout in Tallulah Gorge kind of be the pop out of that landscape photo. And so in order to do that, I created kind of an irregular frame using some A5 paper, the first of which was this beautiful wood grain. And the reason I'm offsetting it, I'm not making like a perfect window, is because I wanted to have that kind of like 3D pop out effect. And so instead I'm going to have it kind of offset a little bit, and I think you'll see what I mean in a moment. But this beautiful rainbow scrap, which was left over from an A5 piece of paper, I'm going to use and make it pretend like it goes all the way across behind my photo, but really it's just a scrap, and it's going to help with that kind of 3D effect of making that sort of pop out from the background. And I really like how this one turned out. It was a really fun idea in my head, and translating that to the paper was just so much fun. It was just so much fun, and it turned out really good. I think it turned out pretty good, if I do say so myself, and I do. So lots of tape on this one. I do use glue as well, because I am finding with a lot of my albums within a couple of years that double-sided tape, the tape runner, any sort of liquid glue that I have used has just not held up over time. So I've been experimenting with some options, and this seems to work. So the tape essentially keeps it in place while the glue dries, for sure. And that glue adherence of the two pieces of paper keeps it longer term together than just the double-sided tape by itself. That said, I do use a very thin layer of glue, and so I don't have as much wrinkling of the paper, and I have not found that to be too much of an issue. So hopefully that helps if you're having some adhesive issues like I was definitely having. That seems to be helping a little bit. So I knew I wanted to use this adventure title. I was going to try to use this cardstock sticker, and it just didn't quite fit with what I was trying to do with that sort of pop-out effect. What I end up doing a little later on is using a journaling card as kind of a journaling spot that also has this kind of pop-out effect, like you would see a dialogue box. It kind of looks like that. And so I thought that works with the concept of the pop-out. And I'm going to keep my embellishing fairly simple. I tried to keep some of it in the background on top of the clouds. We're going to add a little bit more on top of the clouds for a bit of more fun, make those more of a feature in the background, and then I focused the rest of my attention on the title. And so really, this is a pretty quick layout. It came together in about 42 minutes, and according to my computer, with the video recording, it looked like it was about 42 minutes, and it came out really fun. I did try a few things. I would encourage you to experiment a little bit when you are scrapbooking. Put some things down, see if they work, and then if they don't, it's okay. Pull them back up. Try something new. And that's what I'm doing here is I'm auditioning a few bits and pieces to see what I want in these spots before I commit to them. What I end up going with is a little line of trees, a little campfire, a wild to add to that adventure, and a compass, which for me are elements that perfectly encapsulate a camp out for Boy Scouts. It was just a combination that I felt matched really well with this photo. And it also helps in another way of bringing attention straight into the photo by adding more of the color into the photo, because at this point, that's the only thing on the page that has color, so that helps to add just a little bit more that draws your attention into the photo first. And then we're going to add a little spot of color above that in the clouds, but not a lot, just a little tiny bit to kind of spread the color around the page and make it more cohesive. So the background will match the foreground, will coordinate with the foreground rather than match, and yet still not compete with it. And that is always my goal in scrapbooking. So I want to make sure that the photo is the focus. I want to make sure that the layers of the background to the foreground make sense in my head and on the page. They just translate well as being cohesive and going together. And I think I pulled it off with this one, but you'll have to let me know. Here's another thing that I tried out, maybe using some word phrases down the side, but for me that felt a little bit outside of the vision of what I had of that photo just popping out. And it seemed like it was drawing more attention away from the photo and to those word phrases because they were a long list of them. And this is a very neutral background. So instead I decided to put these word phrases up into the clouds and separate them so that they didn't draw quite as much attention to themselves. And then I went with a different cut apart card for the journaling spot. Now, this Great Escape collection is very much an outdoorsy, nature, camping, scouting kind of theme. And I think it's extremely well designed in that you can use it for a lot of different photos. The next layout that I'm going to be making for this collection has a carnival photos, which are going to work really well with this even still. So be sure to look out for that one later this month. But I just love that about Cocoa Vanilla collections. They're just so versatile. You can use them for a lot of different things. There's always a rainbow of colors. And so you can really incorporate a lot of different kinds of photos with both generic and with more themed embellishments. And it just gives you more options. And I love having options. Now, when I go off screen in just a moment here to kind of glue all this down, I am going to be using, again, my double-sided tape and glue in combination, even on the smaller pieces, because yes, double-sided tape for me just doesn't hold up. And I think part of that is because I live in an extremely humid area of the country, and the moisture in the air kind of sucks up moisture from everywhere else, and all of the tape just dries out really quickly, and it does not hold up long term. It just does not. And I think that's just an option I need to consider. So now that everything is glued down, you can see this is the pocket card that I pulled out of the cut apart sheet that worked perfectly as kind of a little dialogue box next to my window peeking into the photo. And overall, this was just such a fun layout to put together. And once I started seeing it come together, I got more and more excited about it because it was really working out quite well to the image I had in my head. And that is a very satisfying moment as a scrapbooker or any kind of artist, is when the vision in your head translates just as well into a physical product as you had in your mind to begin with. Like, that whole process can be very frustrating at times, and it can feel really challenging But when you actually achieve what you were trying to make happen, I think that little success is just that boost you need to keep going and keep experimenting and keep trying new things and stretching your brain for more creative options. Because the more challenging I make it for my brain while I'm scrapbooking, I find the more inventive I become with solutions for those problems, for those challenges. And I think that that's a great thing. I think it helps me to think a little further outside the box, or in this case, to think in a different way about the box. And that's a really fun way to approach a creative endeavor. Now, to finish this one up, I did do some scattering with some little fussy cut stars and some little puffy stars that came with the collection. And I'm going to outline all of my layers. I'm not outlining the clouds because I do want those to fade in the background, but I am going to outline the layers of my window and dialog box, and that way those will kind of stand out and give kind of a 3D pop with a sort of shadow around it. And that's what I'm looking for, is I want it to look like it's part of the background, but also the foreground of that design. I'm going to finish up with some splattering. 2 layers of splattering, this time with black Nuvo drops. I do tend to go for neutrals. Black, silver, white, and gold are my go-tos. And finishing up with some gold ink spray. That's it for this one, guys. Be sure to check out the Cocoa Vanilla blog at cocoavanilla.com.au. Until next time, bye y'all.